These images from NASA's many cameras on board tracked every tense moment of the perilous landing last Thursday.
NASA's latest discovery has left even the most experienced scientists speechless. The newest images captured by the Curiosity rover show an object near 3I Atlas that doesn't fit any natural explanation. Its structure, shape, and symmetry suggest something far beyond a random space rock. Some experts are now questioning whether this could be the first clear sign of extraterrestrial engineering. This is the story of the UFO object linked with 3I Atlas and what it could mean for all of us.
An update now to a story that we have been monitoring for months. If you regularly watch Finnerty, you will be familiar with this next story. Right now, as we speak, 3I Atlas, an enormous glowing object the size of Manhattan.
This isn't a blurry light in the distance. It's a sharp, crystal-clear photograph showing details that even Earth's orbiting telescopes couldn't capture. Structure, shapes, and features that appear disturbingly artificial. And here's the shocking part. Atlas is now close enough to Mars that Curiosity's cameras can see things no natural space object should display. The image shows what seem to be distinct sections across ATLAS's surface, each with different textures, colors, and reflectivity. There are straight edges where natural formations should have uneven curves. There are repeating patterns with geometric precision. And most unsettling of all, there appear to be features that resemble ports, panels, or openings of some kind. NASA released the image to the scientific community but has not issued any official explanation about these strange formations. The agency, usually quick to announce Mars findings, has remained completely silent. When NASA goes quiet about something this significant, it usually means one of two things. They either don't fully understand what they're looking at, or they know exactly what it is and aren't ready to share it. What most people don't realize is that Curiosity wasn't even supposed to photograph ATLAS in the first place. The rover's main purpose is to study Martian geology and search for signs of ancient microbial life. Taking pictures of passing space objects isn't part of its mission plan. Someone at Mission Control specifically ordered Curiosity to pause its regular work and capture this image. That kind of command doesn't come from a low-level technician, it comes from high up the chain of command. Before we analyze what this image reveals, hit the like button and subscribe because what you're about to see might completely change the way you view this mystery. Let's discuss what makes this image so extraordinary and why it's causing so much debate in the scientific world. Curiosity's Mastcam-Z imaging system is one of the most advanced camera setups ever sent to another planet. It can capture images sharp enough to reveal features smaller than a millimeter from several meters away. When the camera was directed at Atlas in the Martian sky, it produced an image nearly 50 times more detailed than anything the Hubble Space Telescope or the James Webb Space Telescope have ever captured of this object. The reason is simple. Curiosity is millions of miles closer to ATLAS than Earth-based or orbiting telescopes. It's like photographing someone from across a football field versus standing right beside them. Details that were once invisible suddenly become perfectly clear from the Martian surface. The image shows Atlas as an elongated cigar-shaped object, roughly 800 meters long and 200 meters wide. But it's not the size that has scientists debating. It's what's on the surface. One imaging specialist who examined the photo described what immediately stands out. Natural space objects, asteroids, comets, and meteoroids, usually have rough, irregular surfaces filled with impact craters, jagged boulders, and uneven textures. But this object has areas that are smooth, unnaturally smooth, with clear boundaries between different surface types that are too straight and sharp to be caused by erosion or natural geological processes. The image reveals at least 7 distinct surface zones, each with unique properties. One area appears metallic and highly reflective, bouncing sunlight in a way that suggests polished metal rather than rock or ice. Another region is much darker, absorbing nearly all light, similar to the stealth coating used on military aircraft. A third section displays a honeycomb pattern made up of large hexagonal shapes covering hundreds of square meters. While hexagons can form in nature, like in beehives or crystal patterns, They appear on much smaller scales. The hexagons on Atlas are enormous, about 15 to 20 meters across each. Patterns like that simply don't occur naturally on space objects. But here's what really has researchers divided. Near the center of the object, there appears to be an opening, clearly rectangular, not circular or random like an impact crater. It's about 50 meters wide and 30 meters tall with perfectly straight edges and sharp corners. Natural geological processes do not create rectangular holes. A planetary geologist who studied the photo stated, "If I saw this on Mars itself, I'd call it a cave entrance or a mine shaft." But this is on an object moving through space. Caves don't exist on comets, so either we're seeing a formation process we don't yet understand, or we're looking at something that was built. The timing and circumstances of this photograph make the mystery even deeper. Curiosity didn't accidentally spot Atlas. The rover was specifically positioned and commanded to take this image at that exact time. That means NASA knew something in advance. Curiosity is currently exploring the Geddes Vallis channel near the base of Mount Sharp, a location chosen for its geological interest. Its cameras are usually aimed at the ground or nearby rock formations. To photograph Atlas, mission controllers had to stop normal operations, calculate when the object would cross Curiosity's line of sight, and reposition the rover's cameras upward at a precise angle. That level of planning takes several days, which means NASA expected the event and believed it was worth the effort. This was no coincidence. They wanted high-resolution confirmation of something they had already detected in earlier low-quality data. A former NASA mission planner explained the importance of this decision. Rover time on Mars is extremely valuable. Every minute of its activity is scheduled months in advance. Interrupting that plan for an unplanned imaging session means someone very high up decided this was more important than the rover's main mission. That's not a casual choice. The timing of the event is also important. Atlas made its closest pass to Mars, about 4 million miles away, right when Curiosity captured the image. From that distance, the object appeared nearly the same angular size as Earth's moon looks from our planet. It was close enough for detailed photography, but still far enough away that it posed no direct threat to Mars. What makes this even more interesting is that this exact positioning created ideal lighting conditions. The sun was behind Curiosity, shining directly on Atlas's surface. No glare, no shadow, just perfect lighting to bring out every surface detail. That wasn't a coincidence. Mission planners clearly waited for this precise moment, which means they knew what they wanted to capture in that image. Curiosity's location in the Geddes Val channel also played a major role. The rover was parked on elevated terrain with an open view of the sky, no mountains or crater walls blocking the horizon. It almost seems as if the rover was intentionally placed there to have a completely clear view when Atlas passed overhead. When Curiosity's images are compared to those taken by Mars orbiters and telescopes back on Earth, the difference is striking. These variations reveal surface features that space agencies might prefer not to be seen so clearly. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter photographed Atlas from Martian orbit, about 12,000 miles above the surface. Those shots showed Atlas as a small, bright object with some visible shape but little detail, useful for tracking, but not much more. Even the massive Earth-based telescopes, including the Hubble and James Webb, only showed Atlas as a faint, stretched-out blur, enough to confirm it wasn't spherical but not enough to reveal its surface. Curiosity's ground-level photo, on the other hand, was like upgrading from standard definition to 4K ultra-high definition. Details that were once hidden or unclear suddenly became visible and impossible to ignore. A comparative imaging analyst described it this way. From orbit, Atlas looks like an elongated rock with some color differences. In Curiosity's shot, you can see distinct surface zones made of different materials, geometric patterns, and structures that look like assembled components rather than natural formations. One feature in particular became obvious in Curiosity's image, a visible seam running along part of Atlas's body. In lower resolution photos, this looked like a faint line that could easily be mistaken for a shadow or discoloration. In Curiosity's detailed photo, it clearly appears to be a joint where two sections connect, similar to panels on a spacecraft. The reflection patterns add even more intrigue. Natural space objects reflect sunlight consistently depending on what they're made of. Ice reflects one way, rock another, and metal differently. Atlas, however, displays mixed reflection patterns that don't match a single material type. Some areas reflect light like polished metal, others absorb it like carbon fiber, and some fall somewhere in between. A materials scientist studying the data explained, "The reflectivity suggests a surface built from several engineered materials, each serving a purpose: thermal regulation, structure, sensors. These are the kinds of materials you'd expect on a spacecraft, not a comet." What sparked the most debate, though, were the enhanced versions of Curiosity's photo. When brightness and contrast were increased, new features appeared: markings or symbols, lines that looked like panel edges, and small protrusions that might be antennas, sensors, or other external devices. NASA hasn't commented on these enhanced images, which is telling. Normally, when geological features appear interesting, NASA releases enhanced versions highlighting them. The fact that they only release the raw image without further discussion suggests they are still deciding what these features represent, or that detailed analysis might reveal more than they want to share. The geometric structures in Curiosity's image are perhaps the strongest indication that Atlas may not be natural. When you analyze the mathematics of what's visible, the odds of a natural formation become extremely low. The hexagonal pattern seen earlier shows surprising consistency. Measurements of those hexagons revealed they're uniform in size within just 2 to 3%. Natural crystal structures can form hexagonal shapes, but not with that kind of precision. Perfect uniformity usually points to manufacturing or controlled growth. A mathematician who studied the pattern put it this way: "Random natural processes create random variations. Even in patterns like crystals or dunes, you'll always find irregularities because conditions aren't perfectly uniform. These hexagons have the kind of consistency you'd only get from controlled engineering or biological growth guided by precise instructions. Straight edges and sharp corners visible across several areas also don't fit natural explanations. Space rocks typically erode into round shapes, and impacts create circular craters, not rectangles or clean lines. Yet Atlas shows features with near-perfect 90-degree angles that appear repeatedly across its surface." A geological engineer summarized it clearly. "On Earth, right angles almost always come from human construction or, in rare cases, crystal cleavage on a small scale. But on the scale seen on Atlas, features tens of meters wide with sharp corners, there's no natural geological process that can produce that. The overall shape of the object raises even more questions. Its length-to-width ratio is roughly 4:1, meaning it's about 4 times longer than it is wide. Natural space objects can be elongated, but this specific ratio happens to match optimal spacecraft proportions, long enough to house systems and maintain strength, yet narrow enough to reduce radiation exposure and drag. Even more intriguing, computational analysis revealed bilateral symmetry along Atlas's long axis. The left and right sides mirror each other almost perfectly. Natural objects are usually irregular and asymmetrical, while designed ones often show symmetry because it simplifies construction and provides balance. An aerospace engineer who reviewed the findings noted, "Bilateral symmetry is typical in designed vehicles, aircraft, spacecraft, even underwater drones. It ensures balanced thrust, even stress distribution, and easier construction. Finding it in an interstellar object is like finding a perfectly shaped tool in the wild, possible by chance, but far more likely to point to intelligent design." While NASA released the Curiosity image to the scientific community, they've remained noticeably quiet about certain features that independent researchers have pointed out. That silence speaks volumes. The rectangular opening near ATLAS's midpoint has stirred intense debate. Measuring around 50 meters wide and 30 meters tall, its proportions are strikingly close to those of cargo bays on large Earth spacecraft. For example, the Space Shuttle's cargo bay was 18 meters long and 4.6 meters in diameter. The Atlas opening is proportionally larger but follows almost the same design ratio. A spacecraft design engineer made an observation that NASA has yet to address. If you were creating a large interstellar vessel, external access ports would be essential for maintenance, cargo operations, or deploying smaller crafts. The rectangular opening seen on Atlas sits near the object's center of mass, precisely where such a port would be placed for proper structural balance. There are also smaller details visible near what could be the object's forward section, protrusions extending outward from the surface, evenly spaced in a pattern that appears intentional. These could be antennas, sensors, or communication arrays. Each one looks similar in size and shape, once again suggesting a manufactured structure rather than a natural one. Independent analysts using image enhancement tools have detected what seem to be surface markings near one of the reflective areas, lines or symbols that might represent writing, serial numbers, or navigational markers. The resolution isn't clear enough to confirm what these markings are, but their presence alone is noteworthy. Natural formations don't typically show markings that look like text or coded symbols. A linguistic analyst who reviewed the enhanced photos said, "If those are indeed symbols or writing, this could be evidence of technology and communication." Written language always points to intelligence. Even if we can't interpret it, the very presence of organized markings would be extraordinary. Even more concerning, there appears to be a faint glow coming from the rectangular opening, not reflected sunlight but actual light emission from inside the structure. The glow is extremely dim in the raw image but becomes clearer when brightness is increased. This indicates that something inside ATLAS may be generating light, which would require either chemical reactions or active power systems. A power systems engineer discussed the implications of this. If light is coming from within, something is producing energy inside the object. While natural processes such as radioactive decay can generate heat, visible light usually requires combustion, electrical systems, or bioluminescence, none of which should exist inside a lifeless space rock. NASA's choice to remain silent about these particular details seems deliberate. Acknowledging them would mean either confirming they see the same things, which would raise difficult questions, or denying the features that are clearly visible in their own data. Remaining silent avoids both, but increases suspicion that key analysis is being withheld. Curiosity's image doesn't just improve the resolution, it completely changes the discussion about what Atlas might be and why it's in our solar system. The evidence from Mars's surface is much harder to dismiss than blurry telescope observations from Earth. Before this, scientists could still argue that ATLAS's strange characteristics, its flight path, material makeup, and electromagnetic behavior, might result from unusual but natural cosmic phenomena we don't fully understand. Rare chemistry, odd orbital behavior, possible but explainable. However, geometric patterns, rectangular openings, and mirrored symmetry are not natural physics. Those are design features. This shifts the question from is ATLAS unusual to who built it and for what purpose? A Harvard astrophysicist studying the image explained the shift. We've crossed a new threshold. When you start seeing shapes and structures that fit known spacecraft engineering patterns, you can't keep calling it a comet. This is a machine. The question isn't whether it's artificial anymore, it's who created it and what they're doing. The object's proximity to Mars when the photo was taken also becomes more meaningful. If Atlas is artificial, its approach to Mars wasn't random, it was deliberate. The object may have placed itself at an ideal distance to observe Mars while allowing clear imaging from the surface. Consider what that means. Atlas might have intentionally allowed itself to be photographed. It approached just close enough for surface cameras to capture detail, but not so near as to seem hostile. It's as if something wanted us to notice and start asking questions. A military strategy analyst gave a chilling interpretation. If ATLAS is a probe or a vessel from another civilization, and if it positioned itself this way intentionally, we could be witnessing the first step of contact. They're showing themselves, giving us just enough information to recognize it's artificial, and waiting to see our reaction. It might be a test of how prepared we are for contact. Timing plays a major role too. Atlas revealed itself most clearly near Mars, a world filled with robotic missions but no humans. If the intention was to provide evidence of artificial origin without triggering panic, Mars was the ideal stage. It's close enough for study, but distant enough not to seem immediately threatening. Within hours of NASA sharing the image with the scientific community, heated debates erupted across multiple disciplines: astronomy, engineering, astrobiology, philosophy, and theology. This divide offers some comfort. If Atlas turns out to be artificial, it wouldn't lessen humanity's place in the universe, it would expand it. Many believe this discovery would deepen our understanding of creation itself. The universe has always been seen as vast and full of mystery. Now we might finally have proof. But others are uneasy. Some view this evidence of superior technology as a possible threat. Military experts worry about its capabilities, intelligence agencies worry about its intentions, and philosophers fear how humanity might psychologically handle the realization that we're not the most advanced beings out there. Public response has been just as divided. Some people are excited by the possibility of confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence. Others remain skeptical, demanding solid evidence before accepting anything so extraordinary. And many are simply frightened by what they can't fully comprehend but instinctively feel could change everything. Social media is filled with theories, from reasonable scientific ideas to extreme conspiracy claims. Some insist ATLAS is proof of ancient alien contact with Earth. Others say it's a warning of future cosmic danger. A few even argue it's a human spacecraft from the future sent back to observe us. The conversation has become so noisy that truth is nearly drowned out. Curiosity's image doesn't solve the mystery, it deepens it. We now have the sharpest image ever taken of ATLAS, and what it shows is unsettling: geometric forms, structured patterns, and design symmetry that look undeniably artificial. But with clarity comes new challenges. If Atlas was built, then we must face questions that humanity has asked for centuries. Are we truly alone? Has another species mastered interstellar travel? What do they want from us? And most importantly, are we ready to know? What few people realize is that this image might actually be intentional. Atlas positioned itself at exactly the right distance and angle for curiosity to capture it clearly. It's almost as if whoever or whatever controls Atlas wanted us to see it, wanted us to begin asking questions and preparing for what could come next. A NASA scientist, speaking anonymously, said it best: "We're beyond the point of denial. Something extraordinary is happening. The real challenge now is whether we can respond wisely. Fear and aggression are easy. Curiosity and diplomacy take courage, but that might be what we need most." Atlas is still out there, still moving through our solar system, still sending its mysterious signals. And now with this image, it's much harder to claim it's just a piece of space debris. The geometric structure doesn't lie, the symmetrical layout doesn't lie, the engineered details don't lie. We are looking at something that was designed, constructed, and sent across the stars, and it's here, possibly watching us just as we're watching it. This new image raises far more questions than it answers, but maybe that's the point. Maybe the encounter is meant to make us rethink what we believe, expand how we see the universe, and prepare for a reality that's far more complex and populated than we ever imagined. Curiosity gave us the clearest image yet. Now it's up to us to find the understanding and the courage to face what it means. So, what do you see in that image? Engineering or coincidence? First contact or false alarm? The discussion has only just begun, and the answers could shape humanity's future in a universe where we may no longer be alone.